All right, let's finish off our Sportico Live focus on NFL valuations with a pair of high-powered NFL executives. We have Jason Wright, president of the Washington football team, and Al Guido, president of the San Francisco 49ers. I'll let you guys fight about who was higher on the list. One of you wants a new stadium. One of you has a new stadium, so we've built an excuse, Jason. You can talk to Kurt about that. But I know people are talking to you a lot, Jason, about the team name. But because I can and I'm in charge here, I want to talk about your middle name, Go Million.
Yep.
Now, I mean, I don't know how many people know there was a fairly important Supreme Court case.
Yeah.
Is that what you are named after?
That is. Yeah, that is my relative, Charles Good Gomillion. The Gomillion versus Lightfoot Supreme Court case.
Gomillion versus Lightfoot. Yep. A redistricting case where the court sided. And yep. Okay.
That's right. Made racial gerrymandering illegal. A very evergreen topic for our political world. So I'm very, very proud of that legacy indeed.
All right. Well, see, Kurt, don't tell me I don't tee you up. Everybody's laughing.
Great segue, Scott.
You've got Jason feeling as if he has to justify a valuation because Al's sitting up here with his new stadium, but Jason's got some business. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. As always, I'm going to turn you over to Kurt. I will pop in a little bit later. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Al, for joining us. I really appreciate it. And so while we're on the subject of names, Jason, you're down to 3 candidates. I know you've said you wanted to reveal that after the season, but I mean, if you want to break any news, now would be a perfect opportunity, I think, to reveal to the world.
I definitively do not want to break any news here. And in fact, I'm not going to say anything because anything I say becomes news.
Yes.
But I think germane to what we're talking about here, and Al and not just the 49ers, but the broader enterprise that they've built around that have done this well. At any big decision point or inflection point like this, you think about how you create new commercial partnerships and new opportunities off of that. And right now, while yes, getting through all the stuff to get the name out of the door and design and dope logos and amazing uniforms and all that stuff getting out the door, it's equally important that we double down in working with our partners to make the reveal of the new name, logo, brand, and identity a major event that also boosts their businesses in a material way that can get them 1-2x return on their existing partnership with us. And that's as much as what we're thinking about now. And that's part of inherent around the momentum in the build of our franchise, and the work that has gone into you guys establishing valuations is the opportunity to have those big leaps forward. And Alan, folks have taken advantage of that, and we will as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're carving ground here. I mean, this is more than 20 years now since we've seen this in the NFL. So there aren't a lot of comps or roadways you can follow to say, oh, this is how we should be doing this. I mean, you're carving your own trail.
That's right. That's right. And with the help of many wise advisors, both people who are helping us understand the cultural impacts of renaming, those who are helping us understand the best ways to monetize and raise franchise value and value to our partners around it, and those in our fan base who are like, just what is going to resonate with us as a football team at its core. Don't get too ahead of yourself, Jason. And between all those folks, we're going to get to a really good answer.
Right. Well, this is our NFL valuations event. You guys are neck and neck. Number 5, San Francisco, $4.27 billion. Washington football team, a tick behind, $4.25 billion, number 6. So you guys can duke it out after that. But I want to. So do we get those right? So are those the right numbers? I don't think either of your ownership groups
are. Al, did they get it right, Al?
Hey, listen, Kurt. It's I would say you are a trusted source in the valuation world. I'll let everyone else determine whether it's right or not. But look, it's a good time to be in the National Football League. That's probably the understatement. I mean, coming out of COVID, being serious for a moment, right? It's good to have fans back in our venues. I know Jason and we got our reps in, on the operational side during preseason. But man, I can't wait. We're on the road for 2 weeks, but I can't wait to 70,000 people strong are in here against the Green Bay Packers. It's nice to be in the National Football League with all the support, but we truly only really had 1 year of COVID sort of disruption. I mean, knock on wood, right? We got to get through this season. We still know COVID is a talking point for all of us, but to have one season disrupted from a fan base perspective, certainly as we talk to our peers in the other leagues, we feel privileged to be in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much of everybody gets the big revenue check from the league for media deals, sponsorship deals, but the way teams really differentiate themselves from a revenue standpoint, valuation obviously is the stadium, because you don't have that big local media deal that you might have in the NBA and MLB. And I guess, Al, if you could touch on, as Jason embarks on where things are going on a possible new venue with Washington, what that new venue meant for you guys in terms of resetting the franchise from a business standpoint.
Oh, Kurt, it meant everything. I mean, we've spoken about it in the past, but when I got to the San Francisco 49ers now 10 years ago, playing in the oldest non-renovated stadium in the National Football League, Candlestick Park, it was historic in so many ways, right? I mean, it was the place that the 49ers, they obviously they didn't win their 5 Super Bowls there, but it was the place that they had all that success. And it was also a place that we didn't have any real premium inventory. All of our suites at that time literally faced home plate. So if you were sitting on the 50-yard line watching an NFL game, you were actually looking at an end zone, right? You had to kind of like turn yourself because it was built for baseball, as we all know. And we were in the bottom quartile at that time in the National Football League in revenue as it relates to both premium general ticket seating and sponsorship. And then moving to Levi's Stadium, the ability to build premium seating in our venue, the ability to activate sponsors different than we were able to activate it at Candlestick Park, allowed us to jump into the top quartile in revenues. And of course, with that came an SBL or a PSL campaign that we did not have at Candlestick Park. We were able to generate over $500 million in premium seating, sort of SBL inventory on behalf of the Santa Clara Stadium Authority. So for us, look, it's been a tremendous success on both the team side. I'd also say it's been a tremendous success on the city side. The economic impact that we've been able to drive here, not just for San Francisco 49ers games, but I know I talked to Jason about this a lot. It's all the Activation 365 and the large events that we're able to bring to Levi's. We've hosted a Super Bowl. We've hosted a college football national championship. We've hosted WrestleMania. In our first 5 years, we hosted more events than any other venue in the country, and that's in an open-air stadium. So kudos to, frankly, our team here at the 49ers, but to our broader sort of political environment and the city of Santa Clara that really went down the path with us to pull all this off. Now, we have a long way to go. We're approaching 10 years into this venue, so we're talking about renewals of all those suites and all of those sponsors, which is kind of crazy to even think about. But Kurt, really building that new venue, it was leaps and bounds for us at the 49ers. Now, really the goal, or at least the opportunity, is to build upon that in 10 years and beyond.
And I think, to build on what Al said, he's been a great thought partner to me on multiple different topics coming in. And this is, one of those things as well, because there's a handful of people that have gone through this process in the leadership chair, right? And Al stewarded it in a great way. And to his point, they're continuing to see lasting impacts, both social and economic, for it. And I think for us, one of the things that we're looking at now, and I've taken pointers from folks like Al and others, is that yes, there is going to be this lift that comes from a new venue. And especially if we do it right, it's going to be an economic development engine for the region for the next 3-4 decades. It's going to create those jobs. It's going to create broader businesses, right? Because we are thinking that it's more than a venue. It is a non-football live events business that happens year round. It's a retail hospitality complex, all of those things that everyone is thinking about. But also we realize that we have to strike the balance between creating a great and compelling guest experience now at FedEx Field that builds the proper momentum into a new venue that has it as an exciting commercial proposition and new home for the team. And so we are figuring out a very complex but pragmatic campaign to invest in the fan experience today that gives us that bow wave of momentum that allows that stadium to have its maximum impact, both from a commercial standpoint and a standpoint of impacting our fan base for their excitement. So, things that we've done is we're looking at the gold member, which is our premium season ticket experience today. How do we add value to that? How do we think about concessions? How do we piloted in the preseason all-inclusive concessions in our club and premium, something that Al and them have thought about for years and have done with great success, and figuring out what do we need to do operationally to expand that into a new venue when we think about starting up a new venue. We've partnered with folks like Grubhub over the last few weeks to do mobile seat ordering. So you can order in your seat, get your food from whatever concession you want, and have it brought to you, right? We're trying to think sort of next level. We've got a new gold member lounge for our season ticket holders. So we're trying to think about holistically, how do you have a run of show and an experience that starts to represent the level of excellence that occurs in a new venue today as a down payment to those faithful season ticket holders and as a prelude to those we want to bring into the family.
Right. Well, I'm old enough to remember when Washington opened, when it was a new stadium opening up, and it was this massive building, ton of luxury suites, and was revolutionary at the time. But now has gotten a little long in the tooth, and so I'm wondering how you approach that calculation. You know, do we push forward with the renovation, or is it the best interest of our franchise to start anew and figure out the right property?
I think like I said, you kind of have to do both. You can't neglect what you have today. And so I think the way that we're approaching it, and I think it's the smart way to do this, it's probably how Al and them have approached it at Levi's, and I know they've done some of this. Tom Garfinkel in Miami has done this really well with Hard Rock, is to think about the aspects of the experience that have highest ROI in terms of the value to your core season ticket member. So you don't need to renovate the whole stadium. You don't need to do a whole scale redo of foundation and structural things and things like that. But where it matters to the guest experience, concessions, parking, the ingress, egress, the way in and out, the stuff that our voice of the fan tells us makes a big difference for folks. We invest there. And for performance on the field, we made some, in my opinion, long overdue investments in our practice facility on the fields and in our game field. We completely redid the drainage. And as a former player, it took me about 5 seconds to walk on the practice fields after a heavy rain to say, hell no, this ain't going to work, because it's actually going to cost us wins at the end of the day. And so we've made those investments, and we're actually seeing our players and our coach be able to be out on the field more, getting the full speed reps, less time on the indoor, which is going to make us more competitive over time. So our fans care about winning, and they care about the seamlessness and the value of their experience. And so if we, in a targeted way, invest in those aspects, FedEx will feel brand new, and we expect that it will over the next couple years. And then that will give us the credibility to really show that this new venue is going to be as dynamic as we promised.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the at-home experience has gotten so good with everybody's 50-inch TV that when I talk to people, that seamlessness from home to their seat is absolutely critical for all of these fans. And you got to take out any impediment that is going to say, I'd rather just stay home.
That's right.
Kurt, though, the interesting part is it depends on each demographic. And what I would say is, like, we've seen an increased amount, like the demand is off the charts for what we consider like return to live sports. And the reality at times, and maybe this is too, like, like when things are taken away from you, right? And sports was taken away from us. Yes, it happened on TV. We watched it. But we now all know what it means to watch a game with nobody there and a game with thousands of people there. And I think I know which one sports fans would pick. And the other part of it is, like, now that that's been taken away, like I didn't get to go to the game with my family, my girls, my dad, my mom. I can't wait to go back. Like, you cannot replicate live. And yeah, I get it. We all got nice TVs. It's great. We are seeing like demand off the charts in our business for people wanting to come back into venues, whether it's with the 49ers or whether it's with our Elevate business. Like, ticket sales demand it's never been higher, and specifically to the 49ers, in my entire time here. And that is inclusive of our first year opening the venue. So wow. I really, truly believe, like, yes, like there's a whole audience we have to think about, and we should. We call it the long tail, right? We can only really entertain 70,000 people on game day. The 49ers have 10 million fans all around the globe. We have to do both well. Mm-hmm. We can't just focus on game day alone. We have to focus on game day and all of the other people outside of our venue that are tuning in on whatever platform they're tuning in. And so, but I would say, like, I really, truly believe that COVID, look, as long as our venues are safe, as long as Jason and I are doing the things we need to do to make sure that our guests, right, feel like the environment that they're coming to is both safe, but frankly, it's exciting. There'll be people in our seats, I promise you, and there'll be higher demand than we've ever seen in our history.
I think that's right. I think there's something deep in the global sports psyche, but in particular the American sports psyche around football being the rhythm of how our lives are structured. And being live at events is critical to that. If you think about it almost as the unspoken spirituality behind the American ethos, like this is church Sunday, right? This is church Sunday, and actually stepping into the pews, so to speak, with the fellow congregants is actually something that's really important for our, not just our economic recovery from COVID as an industry, but as a psychological recovery as a society. I've come to believe that stronger than anything. That's why it's really important that we do our part to make it safe and conducive for fans, and we believe we've done that. So I'm excited for everybody to come back and experience that at full scale.
Right. You brought up that global audience, and you're both in a unique position in that you have global brands that touch a lot of areas. And we had Stephen Jones on earlier about reaching that international audience, which the NFL has talked about over the years, but finally seems to be making it a priority with sending basically everybody outside of the U.S. for an expanded schedule, and now teams submitting proposals for overseas markets where they will have an opportunity. How do you guys tackle that right now in terms of your opportunity and looking at that international audience?
Yeah, I can't wait, Kurt. I mean, I'm super thrilled that the NFL opened up this opportunity. Obviously, we're in a competitive nature because we're bidding on these, so I'm not going to get into which ones. But look, in our history, I mean, John York and the York family. John was the chair of the international committee. We've played in Mexico before. We've played in multiple games in London. I think it's a tremendous experience for not just our team, our players, but all of our fans around the globe. And you're right, we're spending a lot of time thinking about how do we activate in those areas with what the new rules will be. And we've learned a lot from those teams. I think Jason and I talk a lot around what learnings we can take from outside of the National Football League. And if you think about what the EPL has done or what La Liga has done in globalizing their sport or their teams, I think of the NFL teams, we have a lot to learn there. And we've always thought about our DMA as kind of our 75-mile radius in and around our stadium. We have to get a wider lens and a wider perspective. And even for us at the 49ers as investors in Leeds United, I've learned from them. I mean, this whole supporters group thing, right? And how people monetize that in membership. I know the Boston Red Sox did a tremendous job of this. We just launched our supporters club. We almost have 1,000 members now, paying for sort of premium exclusive content, right? And access to the team that we'd have otherwise never thought about before, if not for some of these international teams doing it really, really well. So look, I think there's a whole host of opportunities. The 49ers will be aggressive in how we think about monetizing or at least widening our brand and those who should engage in our brand overseas.
I'd agree and build on that by saying, yes, we're equally bullish on it. I think there is a lot to learn, as Al said, about the core product and how you build and energize the full global fan base in a way that other sports have, and maybe we have not yet fully. But I think there's also something interesting for a select few NFL cities. Al sits in one of them. We sit in one of them. You could argue Miami and a couple other places sit in them also, that by nature of them being globally oriented cities are already attracting global business investment. And that's, to a valuation conversation, puts some inherent value in the markets in which we sit. And it's not just the 75-mile DMA, it is the broader set of business connections that have some regional ties. Al may be in one direction, us in another direction across the globe, where that investment is coming into our specific cities already. And that is an opportunity for us, especially as we look beyond the core football product to the broader media and entertainment type of events that we can create with our global brands that actually can expand the value of the NFL, expand the reach of the NFL, and expand just by taking the inbounds and building with partners that are already excited about working with us. And that's one of the things that's excited me about this role, is the international attention on us as a brand that's already present because we're sitting in a very inherently international city.
Right. I got to touch on gambling because as we're putting these valuations together, everybody touches on it. The revenue opportunity is terrific, but increasingly it's that media stickiness that really excites people. But you're the two of you are coming at it from different angles, despite the similarities in your two markets. And so I'm wondering, Washington, you guys really broke new ground this year as the first NFL franchise to be granted a sports betting license. I'm wondering, it's very early in the partnership with FanDuel, but curious what you guys have learned so far and what the opportunity looks like for the club. And then, Al, I'm wondering if, do you look at these other franchises who are further along the legalization path and maybe a little envious of what their opportunity might be?
Well, sure. I can start by saying, it is obviously an exciting space, and we across the league share excitement to continue to expand and grow. I mean, I think 45 million people in the U.S. plan to put a wager on an NFL game, right? And that speaks to the popularity of the sport and our ability as a platform to lead the way. And that's sort of the steps we took here. Dan, Tanya, and the ownership here for some time have been leading thinkers for the NFL on this, and that enabled us to sort of break ground. But it's important that we do this with two things in mind. We broke ground in conjunction with public leaders, stakeholders, the legislators who understand the broader social implications of moving in this space. And making sure that we're doing this in a responsible, socially conscious way is at the root of how the NFL has thought about it writ large. And we continue to try and role model that as we've jumped out in this partnership. I think the second thing is we all need to align ourselves with partners in the space who share those values and have a keen commercial eye to driving value for our core folks, our core football fans. And that's why our partnership with FanDuel feels particularly germane and fit. They've got the scale, they have the analytics to understand folks, and they have the track record of social responsibility that gave the state of Virginia a ton of comfort to let us go and get out there. And it has been incredibly beneficial, I think, for all of sports fandom in the region. And I think that's what's going to happen as this expands state by state, county by county across the U.S. And we want it to reach everybody as quickly as possible because we're seeing it become unambiguously good, and we're very happy about that.
Mm-hmm. Kurt, on our side, we're following the legislation, of course, as California being the biggest state in the union. We have a good idea of what the opportunity may be. I would say, I really, truly, am I envious? I would say I'm curious is where I'm at. It will happen in California. And we want to be thoughtful to, Jason's already ahead of us here. And this is where it's such a fun ecosystem to be inside of the world of professional sports. He can call me on new stadiums and I can call him on this. And the reality is there's probably going to be, 12 different ways to slice this pie. I don't know what the real or the right answer is today. But I can lean on a whole lot of people that can get us to the right answer. And I think Jason hit on all of the things that you'll think about as you kind of enter the space. And what I would say, it's really, I don't want to say it's no different, but what's exciting is all of the emerging categories, whether that's gambling, whether that's crypto, whether that's NFT. It's a really cool time to be involved in professional sports or sports in general. And I always think about it when someone says, what did you learn from COVID, or what did COVID change? In my opinion, COVID didn't change anything, it accelerated everything. And I really, truly believe that it's time for myself, Jason, all the operators of these teams to lean on both the leagues, which the NFL does a great job at supporting us, but also lean on the experts outside of our spaces, whether it's gambling platforms or whether it's another, to think about how we, the team, should be engaging in their business with our fans, right? To give the best experience to our customers in the long haul. And that's kind of what I'm really excited about.
And Kurt, you've heard me say this before. Hi, guys. I'm back, by the way. Hi, guys. I think one of the luxuries of the NFL, and that every team is cash flow positive, is that you can sort of take this approach. I'm going to lean back in my chair and evaluate and watch in this sense. You don't have to jump into accepting private equity money. You don't have to jump into deals with crypto. You can watch and see how that plays out across the ecosystem and then say, this is what makes sense for us. We learned from A, we learned from B. Now we proceed. There's no rush because the NFL doesn't have to.
I don't know. I think Al and I are probably a biased sample on this, but I think neither of us would probably subscribe to that mindset.
Oh, this is going to be the Mike Bloomberg. I have nothing in common with people who stand on escalators.
I think while certainly the strength of the sport gives you the ability to measure twice and cut once, right? It affords that opportunity. I also think the strength of the sport allows you to be innovative and first movers as well. And I think both Al and I think about ways to use the robust teams we've built, which are filled with really smart people from both inside and outside of sport traditionally, to actually push the needle and allow the strength of the NFL to allow us to be leaders in this space. That's what we've tried to do on legalized sports betting. And I'll give another example I didn't give before. I talked about our partnership in Virginia with FanDuel, but we were recently granted a license in the state of Maryland. And in Maryland, what we were able to do is to allow our ability to understand this space to help the legislators shape some of the legislation in a way that provided for their race and gender equity goals in the region as well. Thinking about what sort of things do you put in place to partner with women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned businesses as part of any legalized sports betting license that is distributed, that actually gets the economic gains that are there. And this is a place where if we sat and waited, we wouldn't have been able to create that sort of opportunity, not just for us commercially and others in the state commercially, but for the area economically. And I would love to see us continue to do that in other areas and be leaders in crypto and NFTs and all these spaces, international expansion and all of that. And I think there's energy for that from folks like Al and I, and I think there's great partners in the league that want us to do that.
This seems like the perfect time then for me, since you mentioned twice your FanDuel partnership. Kudos to you, Jason Wright. That if I had a product, I could say, by the way, this NFL Valuations franchise is brought to you by Genius Sports. Thank you, Genius, for sponsoring this event. If I had a product, which I don't, but I'll just insert that there. Al, I know you're always looking around the corner. Help us peek. Guys, help us peek around that corner. What can we expect from crypto, from blockchain? The NBA puts its blockchain committee out there of owners. What if I'm looking around the corner and you're giving me a little bit of glimpse, what do you see?
Go ahead, buddy. That's a hard one.
You got it, man. You got it. I mean, there's so many directions we could take that.
But which one will most impact what we're talking about today, the overall valuation? What's going to drive the engagement, the revenue, drive the valuations?
I mean, it's hard not to say legalized sports betting in a state that I'm in, given the size of the state. Certainly, the blockchain technologies allow for a lot of different opportunities. I mean, you could think about ticketing as a whole. But Scott, you and I talk about this. I think the benefit that I would say where I do agree with you to sit back is to be strategic in not what deals you do, but how you do them. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you look at the NFL and the deal it did and the equity stake that it took. Maybe that's a little bit different if you're not the first mover, right? If you get to see. So I think there's inherent benefits to at times being a first mover and at times sitting back and saying, you know what, let's see what the best deal looks like for us, given the size and scale of our business. And Jason said it well during his international answer. The 49ers, the Washington football team, or whatever the new name is, I can't wait I don't know. So I don't know what the name's going to be. But I do think there's inherent benefits to both of our locations and the brands in which come to us to think about being like a beta or a test case for their new technologies. And with that, if I put my team hat on, how we think about sponsorship moving forward has forever been changed. And where you might have just taken a check for a logo or a brand or an activation in a stadium or on your digital footprint, you might be thinking differently, much differently now to say, do I want 100% in a check or do I want 70% in a check and 30% in something else?
By the way, knowing that both of you, because of the power of the platform and the brands, will be able to scale whatever that technology or product is far beyond the walls of sport.
And I think, look, this is not, I don't feel like I'm giving away trade. Like Arthur Blank just announced with Steve Cannon and his, we all, Jason, myself, the rest of the teams in the National Football League, right? The megaphone we have, the size and scale, the breadth of all of our audiences as a collective 32 or 33 in the NFL, it's just different than a lot of other leagues. That is true, Scott. You're right. Like maybe it's the maturity of the business versus what you said is allows us from a financial perspective to maybe be a little, I don't want to say more strategic. I would just say it gives us a chance to step back a little bit and think about how we want to do these deals. And the reality is, yes, there's times where you got to plug a hole and it's a known thing, but there's other times where you can step back and say, all right, what's best for our fan base? What's best for our organization? What's best for the partner? And what is the right structure of those deals, short-term and long-term? And I do think that I give Roger and the NFL so much credit. I mean, navigating through COVID was not easy, but thinking about our opportunity now, whether it's our media deals, whether it's our partnership division that's led by Rini, whether it's the strategic stuff that Chris and team are doing on their side, the world's kind of the oyster. But we do have to, and Jason and I, given he's a former player, we talk about this a lot. The hero feature has to remain the hero feature. The product on the field needs to remain as good as it is today, if not better moving forward, because that is what brings people to our venues. It's what brings people to our content, and it's what brings customers to these partners. And that inherently, we can't get too far away from the hero feature or none of this other stuff matters.
That's perfect. And when I talk to the folks in the league who are driving this, who are our thought partners on this, the Brian Rolaps, the Peter O'Reillys, those folks who are in the trenches with us, figuring out how to expand and innovate and all of that. At the end of those, the soft landing pad that we always come back to is the core product remaining robust, thinking about the future of the game and not losing the forest for the trees, right? And I think that's the strength of the game. It's again that this game is the heartbeat and lifeblood of a society that drives our lives, not just in season, but across the year, right? We organize ourselves around the draft. We organize ourselves around mini camp and OTAs and training camp and all of that. That has to be the core, and that has to remain strong. And all of these remain supplementary and supportive of that core product, as lucrative and as big as they can be over time. And if we're thinking about advanced technologies on the strictly commercial aspects of the business, we also are thinking about those in the strengthening of the game at the same time. And I think the NFL League office does a great job of dual pathing those and making sure that we keep our heads in both of those. And it's also incumbent upon us as we innovate at the team level to raise those ideas to the league office so that they can think about those, pull best practices, and with the great infrastructure they've built there, propagate them across all the teams.
Absent calling me feeble-minded and a joke about my less than stellar haberdashery, unlike you gentlemen, if I close my eyes, that was the Church of David Stern right there. That's what I would have heard from David, with the personal insult about the other stuff. Allow me just one last joke, Jason. You talked about sort of the Church of Football on Sunday, and give me your experience. Like, I'm assuming, mom picked out a really nice pair of pants and shoes, right? However, in this arena of religion, I would chuckle that go get your Sunday best is sort of your shiny hog nose and barrel and whatever else you might have as qualified, church going clothing.
You got it. For us, it's a bunch of burgundy and gold. It might be some hog noses. It might be dressing your kid in the new Washington football onesie for their first game. It's a variety of things, especially given the fact that we're 90 years as of next year, in terms of the age of this franchise and the history and what that means. It also means, talking to your family about the experiences that you've had in the past. That's one thing I've learned in this rebrand, is that there's very much an oral passed down tradition of where were you when Doug Williams won the Super Bowl? Where were you when Joe Theismann threw that pass? Where were you where was your family when Sonny Jurgensen was playing ball on the field? Like, all of those things get passed down in almost a storyteller tradition.
I was expecting more from you, Jason. You glorified the quarterback again. I was expecting, where were you when John Riggins ran for 2 yards and fell down?
Where were you when Jason Wright was a 49er? I mean,
That's right.
That's
right.
what we should have talked about.
All of 2.5 seconds.
Hey, Kurt, I want to give you the last question, ask you a question that I'll let the two gentlemen address, because I'm curious to see what this answer is. And I don't know what it is, and you maybe will, because you dive into the numbers and you dissect. But Kurt, what do these gentlemen need to do to supplant the Dallas Cowboys?
Listen, you guys are in fantastic markets. Jason, you got a new building ahead of you potentially. The sky's the limit. You know, the people we talk to when we talk about valuation, they talk about the people in the area, both corporate base and for those wealthy individuals. And when you talk about the Bay Area and the DC area, those two are pretty close to the top of the chart. So, you know, Jerry's been out there selling for a long time. So he's got a few years head start on you two guys. But you guys have made incredible inroads since you've been at your respective teams. So I'm excited to see where both of you go next and both your franchises.
All right. Well, Jason Wright, Al Guido, thank you very much. We also want to thank, by the way, and this is no joke, we want to thank Genius Sports for sponsoring this event. I mean, NFL partner. It's interesting to see where the world of sports betting and data will go, both in terms of just that ecosystem and in terms of media. And stay tuned, by the way, October, we will have Kurt busy cranking out NHL valuations. So that's next. October 14th, we will be running our investment in sports event. So join us for that. And don't forget, Sportico is now a subscription service. We think of ourselves as a community of thought leaders, and we would love for you to join our family. So thanks again. We do appreciate you tuning in. And Kurt, thanks again for all your hard work.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Jason.
Of course.
Thank you.